Hello, it's Brian Whitten and ET Art. I thought I'd put another video up, which is a very critical video, and before I get to the end of the video, as silly as it may sound, it in actual fact is probably it could in actual fact be for either our generation or one down the track, an understanding of the pyramid and one of the other purposes that it has. I had put up that it was a giant sundial, and at one point it was. It did track the Earth as it moved out from 10 to 24 degrees. We're not going to discuss that today. What we're going to discuss in detail is the two impacts that tilted our globe, and they are two separate incidents, okay, and we're going to go through those in respect to planetary motion and pole shift, okay, in a more detailed manner. But before doing so, I did say in my last video that I had written the Prime Minister. I haven't heard anything back from him or either Professor Rickles at the Sydney University about any of the things that I portrayed to them at this present point in time. Okay, I do understand to a degree why that is taking place, although I would think that we are beyond being stupid any further, and the requirement of what I'm saying to you and the necessity to have it in the book by the time I get to the end of this portrayal will, you know, of the planet's motion, we will need to put it in the book. Okay, that's not going to be an option as well. There's a few things that I would appear to me to be being told that are not optional. Okay. Now before moving on, you'll wonder why I've got this picture of this computer system on here. I grew up as a young man and I fixed computers very similar to this. I'm not saying this to big note myself at all. I've met people in the industry that I was working in that would run rings around me, you know, so I'm not putting this in to be smart. I was pretty good at most of the things. Now I'm showing you the front of the computer I used to work on. I'm not putting this in here to big note myself at all, so if you think that you're right off picture, basically I wanted to show you that I'm growing up here as a young 22, maybe 23-year-old man, working on a computer that was like this. It was not like what you see today, and the reason I'm putting this in is you may not be very up on computers. This is quite a bit different, okay? But for you to understand what I'm talking about, it was good to go back to a couple of older pictures here and get you to understand. I'm going to show you another image now. What you're seeing here is the backplane. In other words, the CPU in a computer like that had multiple slots. So you had 11 logic boards full of 7400 series chip flip-flops. I won't get into that. What I want you to see here is the fact you can see it. You can actually see a backplane. The reason I wanted to show you that, and the reason I wanted to chat with the Prime Minister about it, was that this is how clearly they can see the backplane of any CPU in any device right across the world. They can see it like that, and they can bypass anything that is in front or behind it. I just brought up an image of the Serapeum again. If you haven't at this stage watched Decoding the Pyramid and Time, I would suggest you go and watch both of those. Otherwise the whole lot of this is going to sound like a complete load of rubbish. But I'm moving on. I don't want this video to be too long. I've spent most of Sunday thinking about how to present it and what it actually meant when I got a better understanding of both this comet impact here and this comet impact here. I've already showed you in a cross section of the pyramid in one of those videos a timing feature built into the cross section. I've just come back to a cross section of the pyramid now, and what we're going to do is discuss the T1 and T2 here, which is the event 1 or event 2, which is the first comet, second comet as one event, and the third and the fourth comet as another. I'm saying event because in actual fact in teaching the former king and queen and populace and killing them all with the delivery of these comets, they gave them a lesson, but in doing so they also gave us a lesson, the coming race or the people that were returned, or however we got back here, because like I said, this event was not going to leave anything on the planet living. I will get to that. We can confirm that now too, that there's hadn't been idle chatter, but certainly I will show you what was eventuated with this one in time. So between 1 and 2 we travel 1,063 kilometres here, because what we do between the time of this, we know we've tilted the axis. By the time this one hits here, right, which is this time, okay, that's stopped the tilt of the axis, knocked it back to 10 degrees, okay. I say knocked it back to 10 degrees because it's important to understand it did knock it back to 10 degrees. It depicts it also in the Serapeum that it got out to approximately 12 to 13 degrees and then got knocked back. Knocking it back to 10 degrees was a very pertinent point, and that was because that is a distance, and 10 degrees is a pertinent thing we use as time on our planet. For every 1 degree is 4 minutes. For every 10 degrees is 40 minutes. Okay, now it's obvious that this event is not going to take 40 minutes. Now I've got that event open. This is Google Earth and the representation of where the comet hit, bottom of South America and Antarctica. It is the one that tilted the globe. And you can actually see in the diversion of the comet itself where it actually tilted. It's actually that line there. One thing we then look at and say, okay, well, we've just had a time of 40 minutes displayed in the cross section of the pyramid. Now this is a comet that's coming in out of space at great knots. Ask yourself, do you think that coming in out of space at whatever speed it came, that's going to take 40 minutes to do this? You're going to say we're going to come in at great knots in 40 minutes event here? The 40 minutes is not the event here. I'll say to you that the reason they stopped it at 10 degrees and give us a 40 minute was not to say this minute, or this was a 40 minute event. It's the whole event that was 40 minutes in its entirety. Okay, we're back to the cross section now to discuss that time, 40 minutes. 40 minutes, we might actually find out something else. 40 minutes is then in that case from here to here. It's the entire event that takes 40 minutes. You'll find that T1 is exactly a third of what was there. The remaining is 2/3. The 40 minutes, ironically, divided by 3 makes T1 1. 13.33333. Why am I not surprised? That is how long we have here. 13 minutes. We travel 1,063 kilometres. I'll tell you what that does. So if you're sitting in a cave and you're one of the global elite thinking that billions you have spent storing whatever it is you put beneath the planet, there will be nobody to eat it there, because at the point that happens there, this speed is the wall at the other side of the cabin that you have put yourself in is going to squash you like a fly. Now we'll discuss this one here, okay? And as you can see, if we're talking a period here of minutes between T1, T2, just realise before we get there how little that is, okay? How quick that is, because this traverses 500 kilometres, or actually 600 kilometres of movement in that time. This one does 1,063 into that. So by far, at this point, this one's going to kill everybody underground without doubt, and most people on the ground. This one is far, far worse. I'll know by the end of this video that this artifact, which is an Egyptian artifact, an unexplained artifact, that at times in the past I thought was in actual fact a responsibility of possibly making noise for the production of hydrogen. I've watched a lot of things over the years, and I'm not saying it doesn't do that, and may possibly do a dozen other things, knowing what these people are like. Once again, I'll talk about its prime purpose will be understood. Now, I've just backed out the camera a little bit there so that you will understand the planetary motion that we see when we have this pole shift, as opposed to the other one when we are rotating around the sun and we get to a point where a comet hits us. It spins us like this being the Earth, like that. That's being one pole motion, which is this one, or pole shift I should say. This pole shift happens by a comet coming along and hitting us. I'll do it from the bottom, okay, from the bottom of Earth. So the Earth is coming along here, spinning nicely along. A comet hits it. It goes directly up over the top of the sun, like this, down the other side, and comes back up this side, and just goes back into the plane it was in around the sun, and that does one cycle around there like that. And I am saying this one too, when it gets tilted and the tilt does not stop, it does one cycle like that. The speed that does that I will put in the book when we get to that, because I haven't covered it in this and I'm not going to worry about it at this point. We must quickly cover distance, and just remember where it reflects it in the Seraphim, because from there to there is our 10 degrees of initial tilt, equaling 1063 kilometres, and that this is at scale, as is this. Okay? This is why this is showing you that the first comet impact from here just went bang. It's because this is at scale. Okay, so you're talking 1,000 kilometres here. You are talking, one would expect, well, actually, it's actually to there. I just realised if I look at that, that's probably exactly the same distance here. So its placement is not guesswork, this one. It's actually here. So it's an actual fact even further again, at scale, it's here. So it's gone, if this is 1,000 kilometres, 600 kilometres in a downward direction in the time factor. Now we'll discuss the time factor. I'll bring you back to the cross section here of the pyramid and the second event, which has just relayed to us a distance of 600 kilometres, which is then jolted back to 400 kilometres, which I've left here. Okay, I've actually said that there's 400 kilometres of movement of the planet from here to here. It's not, it's actually 600, and then it comes back to 4. But the time stays the same. But that happens in this event. Now remembering that this was 15 minutes, okay, to go to there, and this is the same time frame, and I would guess that that's probably around a third or a quarter of the same time here. Let's make it a third, just to be, for the sake of it, because that's probably failing on the more extended time frame factor. We'll say it's a third, and we'll make it 5 minutes. So 5 minutes now. In 5 minutes, the total movement of the planet in a downward direction, in this one, is 600 kilometres initially. Okay. And this is where we must understand what the outcome is. When I said to you, like I said, the wall's coming at you at 7,000 kilometres an hour here is not such a bad thing compared to this. This drives the planet down away from your feet if you're standing in the middle of the northern hemisphere at a speed far greater than the speed that is exhibited here. total movement downward of 600 kilometres is attained in 5 minutes. Okay. This is where we discuss a thing that's called terminal velocity. Okay. Terminal velocity is best explained, and probably the most simplest way for people to know is for me to do this. Terminal velocity is the speed at which you fall to the planet because of the gravitational force it has on you. So when you go up, excuse me for leaning down and getting our man on a parachute, he doesn't have nor suffer terminal velocity whilst his parachute is open, because whilst he's falling he will get what is called the nominal speed. It is well in excess and well and truly under this speed at which the Earth's surface falls away from you by very much. Okay, this 600 kilometres difference here. I want you to stop and think about the atmosphere of the planet. Okay, you're starting to see now what the image I started off with. Are you starting to see what it means? This period of time of 5 minutes, when you work out the speed it moves at, in 5 minutes there you've travelled 600 kilometres. And if you're on the northern hemisphere, you'll find that the Earth's fallen away from your feet at more than 3 times the speed of the nominal speed. To understand where we're looking at now. Everything on the planet for this period of time. Everything on the planet from this period of time does not have the Earth's gravitational pull on it. Everything. Everything off the core of the Earth, or everything outside of the rock. Okay? Everything outside of the rock on our planet is not under the control of the gravity of the Earth there. Now, you're starting to understand what I'm talking about, what you're actually seeing. The Egyptian relic is in actual fact seeing and indicating exactly this. It is indicating the peeling back of the oceans, the ability of the Earth to lose its oceans here straight away. Okay, and there is no comet to stop this motion. There's not a comet here. You know what stops this happening 12,000 years ago is them dropping another comet, bang, straight on the ground 5 minutes later. They created the Mediterranean. They killed the king and queen and the race that had gone around the earth eating people. And I will say at this point that when I say, like cross to religious aspect of point, I was raised a Christian. We were told the story of Adam and Eve, and you shall not eat from the tree. It wasn't an apple we were not supposed to be eating. It was each other. He in actual fact did, when he landed these comets, I did want to mention, we must note that he separated the continents in the process, in my opinion, to protect races from other races. There was a very deliberate attempt in the comet sequence, as we've discussed before, is separating every landmass and extending the Mediterranean, okay? This is another artifact that I've found online under looking up Egyptian artifacts, but I'm not a historian, but certainly without any doubt I would think it is not just a brooch or something that fell off somebody's neck. It may very well have been worn as a necklace, but whoever wore it knew what it meant, because that's exactly what that's meaning. It's talking about a situation where, and this might even be angles, telling you the angle, but what you're seeing is a depiction of the planet being pushed up by the same pole shift method that I'm talking about, and the oceans being swept away like that, which is very, very reflective of the image. Now remember that the image that I've shown you, you can dispute it all you want. It is attained in a very, very difficult manner, following instructions on a rock as how to point your microscope and which angle to point your light on. This is another Egyptian artifact that is not the creation of an Egyptian, it is a creation of the pyramid builders. It is a creation to depict just exactly what we've just discussed, the second impact of a comet. She holds in her hand planet Earth, which she thought she controlled. It is a bird depiction as opposed to a line, because it refers to the Queen of the Earth and the one world government they had at the time. That is why she is depicted there as a bird. The thing that you see running down the back here is not what you think it is. It's a depiction of the oceans that have run off the Earth in the event that this comet hit it, and it's pushed the Earth away from the oceans. Here is another image that's been depicting of a very exactly the same thing, and that is that this comet here has hit the Earth and moved the oceans off the planet. Okay? That's what is a more archaic method of the same story. If you consider the age of the story left on here, it's the same story. Whether it be left there at a time in the past event, I don't want to discuss in this video, but I'm going to make another video about that. I've got other motifs that depict all of this. I just want to keep this one, like I said, planetary motion. This is the Eye of Africa. For those of you who don't know where it is in central West Africa. It may be unknown to some of you that it exists on an imaginary line that goes from Egypt to Easter Island. It is in actual fact depicting, as I've portrayed in another video, and also in this one in T1, when we have a movement of the line of longitude like this, that is not stopped by another comet, so that it goes like that. This, as it does in the first Egyptian artifact, is in actual fact telling us how the world's oceans behave. And now I'll refresh your memory on that Egyptian artifact. That brings us back to this Egyptian artifact, where it is doing exactly the same thing, showing a depiction of what happens to the oceans of the Earth when the comet is pushing the Earth this way. The oceans are peeled back off the world. Both of them accelerate the mass of the planet beyond that can, where it can retain the oceans. And both these visions are of exactly that. Okay, moving on from the phase back to this image, the phase of doom and gloom. Once again, we are seeing an image portrayed where the king and queen are standing on bare earth here. It's not necessarily the way it happened, but I will explain what they saw, and as much doom and gloom as I've just portrayed, which is true in reality. It would be totally irrespective of the mass, I would think, the mass of the planet. And I think those issues that I've portrayed at this point with planetary motion need to be really assessed by people that do have the qualifications. I do not have those. People need to go and assess what I've told them, or what I'm telling you as a message, really. I'm telling you what this means. And this, like I said, they're king and queen of the world. They have majority of the world in their control here, and their prediction is they do this. But in, like I said, sense of humour. When this happened, the first incident has rotated the planet's axis by 10 degrees, so if you're standing on it, it's very, very bad news for you. Where they're standing, they're in actual fact in the part that's pretty close. The place I just showed you, the Eye of Africa, where the place on the planet that doesn't get affected so much by the planet's movement at that point, which is ironic because that too almost seems like it's a planned event in that these king and queen here are in actual fact they're standing on a place where that hasn't had that much effect. They're also standing before the Mediterranean is created, so they're standing at the top of the this is depicted as an inland civilization with lit cities. I've said to you before, there are images I can get on rocks that are absolutely unbelievable. That is what's happening, and it is obviously that these people would not listen, and in the end, the result in the end is really quite humorous, really, because at this point they're still standing where they live with a 20-minute lull. Okay. They're in an area where they don't have a lot of water near them. The bodies of water are shallow water anyway, and they also have not incurred the movement of water. Right? So they're actually standing in an area where they would have certainly felt the jolt, right, and it certainly would have moved them, but nowhere near. It would have been like the rest of the the area over closer to the line of longitude that was shifted. So they're actually standing here, and they would have known some of it would have happened, right? And they're standing with their feet dry still, and then then the next comet they would have seen coming. Well, they would have seen it still coming at them at that point, and it was coming on its way down to create the Mediterranean. There were two of them that actually did such things. That was brought from the one that came from Central America. It broke into two, the main one mostly that created most of the Mediterranean, but that brings me back to this artefact. I laugh. I laugh every time I look at this, I'm not kidding. When you realise what? Seriously, you've got to laugh. If you're a person like myself, I was going to say a working man, but it's not a working man. This is a joke to a good man, no matter how rich nor poor you are, when you have been trodden on for so long by so few, for so long, and this is it's hilarious. I just can't help but laugh. This guy's head here. What happens next is these two comets, they create the Mediterranean, but they do so, right, by driving the planet down at 600 miles an hour. 600 kilometres an hour it measures. 600 kilometres an hour, straight down underneath this guy and his queen's feet. This is hilarious. I know it's a destruction of the planet, but we're all still here, and I know you may laugh, right? But I mean, I may laugh, but seriously, it's hilarious, because what these people would have seen is they hadn't had the tidal wave hidden. The last thing they would have seen was a comet come down and hit the planet. Okay, that hard and fast, that in actual fact it actually moved the planet from underneath their feet, and they would have seen the blue sky above them gradually turn darker and darker. Because that's what these two people, well, anybody within Kui or whoever, where they were standing, that's exactly what these people saw. And that's why this guy's got black hair here, you know, it's hilarious. And you're looking at his face, I honestly cannot, I can see that. Why that's like that is hilarious. I'm not kidding. I've got to move on because I've just got tears in my eyes. Anyway, I'm back. I can have a bit of a break there because it does show that I just cannot get over that guy's face. I'm not kidding. Once you realise what has happened, it is hilarious. But back to being more serious note, I'm back at the Carry On glyphs here, and I'm not there physically, obviously. This is the television. I just wanted to show you the arrow here pointing at this little comet, okay, that was the impact it was actually the centre of the three comets that was coming in. This was originally two, well actually it was originally one, it was then originally two, but the third one that landed on the planet first landed here, okay. Didn't land there, that's a rock, but it's depicting where it landed, which is, I'll show you now. Righto, what we're looking at here is the the end of the arrow, right? So in other words, the tail of the arrow. The arrow that we've seen it carry on that points at the little comet, that was the centre comet on the last impact. This is at the end of the tail. And we're seeing here two rocks that have been put into the side of this cliff. I mean the side of this rock. They've been inserted in here. So this whole place is telling us the story. We really need to understand the true story behind Carry On, because these two rocks here, if you look here, there's also a little circle here, and this little circle here is telling you how the comparative size of these two comets here that are going to hit here, they're going to be that big compared to the one that's sitting out there in the middle of Australia. So I would, and not only that, I would suspect that it's a predictive event here. This is a predictive event. This hasn't happened yet. We can't see it. There's nothing there in the back of Australia to tell us these two things have happened. The hole there is telling us the comparative size. I also suspect that the arrow is pointing to the comet above there to say it's going to come from the same place as well. So the taking of a sample would be a good idea. I've suggested that already. That I would suggest that is the case. And also be aware that this is a tail at this end, right, when it's an arrow at that end, and when it's a comet at this end, it becomes a tail at the other end, okay, a comet tail, and that swoops up like that. Well, it doesn't swoop up, it sort of swoops along the rock like that, a little bit, not a lot, but it comes up and it's pretty much level with the little arrow, or I should say the little comet. I'll move on. This is the other rock that we see at Carry On that I said, in my opinion, looks like Australia, and this is the comet, a prediction here. This is where it's a big gash in part of Australia that hasn't happened. That's the event that the very pyramid is built to tell us about. This one here, it's in the southern hemisphere, it's above the tropics, it's below the tropics, it's in exactly the right place to propel our planet in an upward direction. And that is in actual fact exactly why the pyramid is here. It's actually because of that going to happen in approximately 12 to 1500 years, okay? And it's going to be of the T2 type event that is going to drive our planet upwards, and the oceans peel back more from either one pole or the other. So we're in for a cold swim, one would expect. I'll move on. Now I've come back to that comet impact, which is the one that is portrayed at Carry On being the little impact. It's got such a big arrow pointing at it, like I said. And the problem is, well, not a problem, I mean, you know that this happened 12,000 years ago, and then the tidal wave swept across, right, because this was the first comet to land. So there is, at this point in time, tidal waves haven't come, and anything that had covered this, or any dirt or whatever from the impact or the retention of the landmass to hide it, was swept away, which is why we can see it. Now if the situation was, if I was to move a little bit further down to the right, which I'll show you in a minute, once we leave this view, and there was a bigger comet having landed at some period in the past, we'd see the scarred land pretty easily, wouldn't you? I mean, if this is, and the comet sitting there, because there's places all over the world where you see the comet sitting, as we've seen before, up in the top of Australia. They're sitting in the bottom of the ocean. If I zoom out and we see where in Australia that is, and we go laterally across, there is no visual here of any comet impact. Not to the extent, not to say there aren't any, I'm saying certainly there are not big gouges in the land that have been cut in this direction when you go across here. If I pan out, it's the whole of the country from that little comet on, in a lateral movement there is nothing there. This is, as promised, part of the video where I was going to go back and address an issue that was in the tin, well, to do with the tin tam rock, in the loss of marks on the fore here, and the red mark not being here anymore. But what I showed you was the other view, how the marks had gone from this way. I was looking in from that way and showing you that what was a depiction of Nibiru, and the next view I'll show you, these marks here are all gone. I'm just showing you here that my focus is over here now, my light source is over this side. It's nothing to do with light. This is, I'm pretty sure these were actually taken with the microscope light, but just starting by dimming them. There's probably not necessarily light from a separate source. Okay, and that was where I thought the Nibiru was, so I'll go back over and show you the view from this side, right? Okay. This is the same spot on the rock, but it's from a totally different angle altogether and up higher. You can see this is the white mark, and South America's upside down and slightly sloped, and everything's the wrong way. But you'll see highlighted there a very, very pink spot in the middle. That's actually what drew my attention to that situation, right? So, and then you see this white one here. So sometimes it's things like that that will turn you around to go the other way. So I'll go that way now and I'll show you what happened. And this is now turned around and coming in from the other side. I might just move that out just a tad, so I want you to see something here. I want you to see the brightness of this white spot down here. So you can see that white, that's the white spot you can see in that last shot. White and a pink spot. So when you come around and line them up, that's what happens. It's not that it's not there. Like I said, you can see it from the other side, the colours. It's just telling you where to get the shot from to get the image they want you to see. And they say, have a good look at this, you know, and this is the one where I said, you get it looks like there's things firing off here, and these are the three comets. There's the one that goes over and lands in that I've showed you, and this is the bottom of bottom Australia, Great Australian Bight and Port Augusta and whatnot. You know, I mean, I'm not, that's there, you can see it. Okay, now I'll show you the rock now. We're going to do it live. Look at the very same rock. Okay, I have pre-focused, albeit it may not look like it. This is the rock we're going to put under the microscope, so I'll slide it in like that. Okay, and like I said, it's pre-focused, so that's why I did that. I'm going to slide it to the point that that red mark was on. We are right there now. Okay, and as you can see, there's no pink marks or no Nibiru or no anything there that I haven't done anything with it. It's not tricky. I cannot put the mark there. This is the part of the video that relates to time. Now I've got that rock in the position I want to have it in to do my display, and I'll just show you that this is a thin, like I said, you can see it's one of those thin, I've got to hold it back here, it's not focused, a thin art line one. I'm going to put that in there. Okay, so you can see I can't draw that mark there. That's one of those really skinny things. I can't draw those red marks there with anything I've got anyway. I suppose I probably could have if I went and invested in the things, but I can't say I've going to waste my time doing such things. I'm going to rotate that around underneath the microscope so you can see that it is showing you up on top there, the white marks here, which is where South America was and where the 4 used to be. I'll twist that around now so you can see. I noticed the other day when I twisted that around, it actually turned into a pyramid, which I think it's done it again there, has it? Yes, we sort of get that. And see how I turn that round, and we're not seeing a 4 anymore at all. We're seeing some strikes taken off here. See this part here? That's where it had the 4 written, and Nibiru here, and the little man standing over here. This is where Australia was, and Port Augusta and all that, and the highlighted mark when I get this in the right spot. Oops, which is right here. I've got to get it in the right spot to have the angles all correct like that. So that Port Augusta here, Port Augusta, bottom of Australia, that's where the question mark comes up, and which is how I know where that comet landed. It was actually that rock that told me. Now I want to show you one other thing. I've moved that right around so you've seen that there's no pink come up in that corner there. I've moved it right around all the light sides there, both that way and this way. Whoops, in there. There is no pink coming up at all there. Right now what I'm going to do is show you something on this rock that really is spectacular, and I'm going to do it by doing as I've told you. You line these up here, those dots, and what you see come out in here is, if I can get it right and do it live, will be good, because you'll learn something as well. I'm going to first of all reduce the light. You'll probably already see there's a man's head here looking in this way. He may come a little bit more prominent as I reduce the light, and he'll be looking in at, you know, UFOs and all sorts of things as I turn the light down here. You can see them start to come out. It is this rock and some of the things it does. And I'll be honest with you, it's not just this rock. There are many, many rocks, and some of the things I'm seeing by doing this are absolutely amazing, providing you get the microscope in the right location and follow the rules that they are putting there for you. So in this instance I'm just turning them down very, very slowly and reducing the light to see what happens, right? To see if we get anything coming up, and as you can see we do, when we get really low light, start to see where things happen. In actual fact, that's what happens a lot of the time. It's actually really dim light that brings you out what they want to see. Now, like I said, there is a spot here where it looks to me like there's a bit of a UFO starting to show up there, but I'm not going to worry with that too much. I'm going to turn that light off, and you watch what happens when I start moving the light around this rock from another position altogether. Okay, and I see that figure quite often. I might just, oh no, that's not too bad. I see that figure, that guy that's coming up there with that sort of thing over his head quite often. I don't know from what culture he exists. He must be an African of some description, I suppose. He looks a bit African to me. But you can see what I'm talking about, how when you dim the light like this, how he stands out more. But I want you to watch down the front here on this rock when I get to about here. It's very, very an unusual thing. You see a man lying down, and he's being operated on just here. Can you see him there? I'm going to just move this way a bit. Excuse me. If I get him in the right light, I'll just I've got to get this in the right light for this to happen. Like I said, you can go down here and get comets coming out of the sky and such things. But I did notice, and I was going to post this video yesterday, but some things happened that changed things. There we go. There he is he? Oh, if I can't get him, I'll insert him, because he's, like I said, there he is there. See how he's just coming out there and he's lying down, and when you get the light in the right spot, how they light it is really amazing. Some of the things, and there's another guy's face there, see, up the top in the middle. Over this side, if I move again, imagery, oh yeah, look at this, top right side here, look up here, look, what you see come out of that image, look, if I get the light right, what can you see there? What can you see? Can you see that in that corner? Slowly and moving, the very same spot, you can see there, that is the same rock that has Nibiru taken off it there. And to be honest with you, Nibiru is actually depicted in here anyway. If I actually go down slower in the side here, you can actually get Nibiru in these parts in here, like as a planet. And that's, like I said, and this is just, like I said, a very minute movements of light around, and the changes in the imagery is really quite amazing. We must discuss now the missing lines and why. Why are the lines missing? I'm not having you on these. It's not just Nibiru, there are 2 strikes and a dot missing off this image. That one, and that one. And they're not missing the rock. You know, like I said, you can go and dispute that all you want. They're missing. They're not missing, well, the rock itself is now in a point of production where it hasn't been completed. That's what's actually happened. Now, I didn't need to know that. I didn't need to know about the time travel thing because I'd already made my mind up. So we've got to analyse why now. And you can dispute all you want, but I'm just going to assess reality. The situation is the rock didn't have that on it, you know, so it's actually gone for a bit of a jaunt. And I now have a rock that has halfway through the process of its manufacture, which is why these marks are now missing. Okay, for that to happen, I already knew. Like I said, time travel. They had already predicted an impact some 15,000 years in advance in predicting the impact in Central Australia. Well, probably a little bit less than that actually, 14,000. You know, I mean, I knew they already time travelled, so why did this have to happen is why we've got to assess. Why the 2 strikes and a dot missing? You know, we really should think about why that's the case. And I did say in another video, did we have 2, you know, have we had 2 warnings already? I don't know. Listen, and obviously the predicted event is quite some time off. The predicted event that I'm talking about in comets in respect to the pyramid is the pyramid. This is predicting another event here. This is saying 2 of something have happened, and the whole process of knowledge of me doing what I'm doing is very, very unusual thing to happen, I guess. But you know, like I said, it's happening. I'm not really sitting here stressing or worrying about it too much. I'm just telling you the message that I'm seeing, and like I said, the restriction of the message to everybody would be an absolutely putrid thing to do, because it's an actual fact talking about humanity, and we could be talking about the fact they've done this twice. They've come back here in time twice and saved us, and they're not doing it this time. There's one left. They're not doing it anymore. This is the last go, and that's why 1200 years away from the event they're telling us and saying, listen, we've done this. And I will do another video about something else that I've seen, and I believe it depicts that. It depicts that they've probably been here a long time. The mere fact that we've got water on the planet still. If in actual fact we are looking at what can happen, we may see very well that that's actually may be what happened to Mars. Okay, that in actual fact the same sort of thing. It did one loop around the sun, and lost its water in the process, because you don't get it back once you've gone past the point of a situation of acceleration beyond that the that the Earth can retain the water. Well, it will let it all go. It's certainly in the T2 option. So we must understand and really understand why this has gone. Why are these 2 marks off here? Because I didn't take them off. It's this rock has been, and I already knew the time travel thing. Now it could be because they wanted you to know I was correct in the time travel type scenario, because it was only just purely and simply logic to me that was the case. It was the only way. I mean, how can you predict planetary movement for 15,000 years of motions of bodies that go way, way, way away from wherever you are all the time? You have to have, an ability to be able to see forward in time, or be from the future. So that's why I said time travel was inevitable. Would have to be, and the prediction of accuracy and I mean, like I said, technology I'm looking at on these rocks is absolutely mind-blowing. Now I would see that, with these marks on the rocks cannot go out of frame here, for the same reason. We're in the same boat. You buggers have caused a problem again. We are now at a situation where the planet itself is threatened by your behaviour, and how would you react? I don't know. Listen, all I'm saying is this has happened for a reason. We've got marks that are not on this rock. One other point is that I have mentioned to the Prime Minister about the penning of a book, because this all needs to be written up, the exact reason why. I mean, if this comet is predicted to land in Australia, the entire pyramid complex is actually built to depict what happened to our planet, what will happen to it, and what can happen to it under the situation of a comet impact. And it is portrayed a very, very bad thing, because it is portrayed our planet is going to go up and do a loop in the period of about 12 to 1500 years. If it's going to do the loop, one would suggest it's going to be hit hard enough. So, we're talking about the ending of the planet. So, I don't know, you might be given an option here not to put it in a book, but I can't see it happening, okay? I'm just using logic. And if the story is on the little rocks, it will be in the book as well, because the little rocks, the story they tell have been left here for humanity. So if the book is going to reflect, it will reflect the truth, it will reflect beings, and that is what they are. They portray themselves as beings. They do not portray themselves as gods. Not at all, actually. Like I said, there are images where they are sitting with the king and queen of Egypt. They are obviously people who give chances. That could be another reason why the 4 was reduced to 1. Have you been given 3 chances, or are we looking at strikes and you've lost 2 strikes? So I don't know. The penning of the book, but like I said, the penning of the book, in my opinion, I think would be a far better idea. I'm not an archaeologist, I'm not a geologist. I may be that some of the things that I portrayed to you today have been a discovery, and you know it all now, but other people don't. Or I should say other people know well and truly about a lot of what I said. I don't know. I don't know how much is a discovery, how much isn't. That is irrelevant, okay? I would prefer the book to be written, paid for by the federal government, the information distributed worldwide, and the book to be penned, if it was okay, by the Aboriginal elders that live in Australia. The discovery was made here, if in actual fact this part of it is a discovery, and the prediction of this event is smack bang in the middle of Australia. So I think it worthy that if we're going to call it or pen, or the book be penned in any name, if it was okay with the Aboriginal community, I'd actually like for you guys to get together talk about your dream time and understand whether or not there's somebody in your dream time who is the elder, you know, the person you remember, or the furthest back. Okay, and I think that would be an appropriate thing to pen the book in that name, because you know, certainly the Australian Aboriginal race are certainly looking like we're a very, very, very important part of our start of our human history on the planet, and I know that from looking at the rocks. Okay, they definitely will be a very, very important part after this event as well, I would expect. But only the good ones, maybe. I don't know. I'm not saying they're going to save us. I'm not going to say they're going to do one way or the other. I'm saying there is one strike there. There used to be 3, or there was the number 4 there that is now turned to 1. And that's all. I'll finish off on that. And look, I hope you have a nice day. This is Brian Whitten and ET Art. I apologise for this being a little bit long, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much. Have a nice day. Bye.